Where's our official timekeeper?
Yeah. You are right. You are specific mistakes every year.
That's my Jay.
All right, yeah. See, sometimes that obsessive compulsive near photographic memory comes in handy.
And sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly.
Yours or his?
Fine.
I do not. I don't know that I'm the two.
So Jay, we're going to take the old battery and mount it on a plaque for you.
I mean, did I not tell you just what? Last meeting you asked me, should I still be reviewing the invoices?
I did.
I guess that's an obvious yes.
All right. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Go through a roll call. Attendance.
Here.
There.
Here.
Harness. There. Lee.
Here.
Scarborough.
Here.
Elias.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Probably ask that number 3 will jump up to 2. So we'll call to order, pledge allegiance, and then we'll add the moment of silence for Mayor Jane Seymour. Seaman, sorry. Then we'll go to our minutes of acceptance. So we'll note any changes to contract by Mark. What do you need? Changes? Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thursday morning.
All right. Our agenda items. The request to council, kind of just brief on that for a second here, that maybe is it possible that we can allow our town manager to, as long as it's within the policy of nonprofit and the amount of times per year, to go ahead and let him approve those at his discretion. Of course, then we would just need to change that resolution or the wording for that. Any thoughts on that?
I think this is a minor duty of council to review these requests, so I don't see any reason not leaving it in our hands. Nothing against Brian, but just my 2 cents.
I don't care either way.
I concur. Leave it in the council. This is the policy system.
What is their refund for? They came in and just paid for it, not knowing that there might be a opportunity not to?
They had to pay because the meeting they held was before your next meeting.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't
So we asked for...
planned for well in advance.
Correct.
Okay.
So do you think council should still consider the request or just put it in?
I don't have a problem with that, yeah. It's not a big amount of time, and it gives us an opportunity to interface with the constituents and figure out who's doing what.
Okay. All right.
What is the fee that they paid?
I'm assuming 25.
25?
I'm assuming.
Now, are they asking for any more after that, or is this just once a year they do this?
They're just asking for one.
Okay, so they're not requesting 3 other dates in this next year or something?
Do you know for sure that they're 501c3 essentially? Because this is the new baseball group in town. There's 2 baseball groups in the area now. One that has a lot of infighting with the other. So I'm curious if this was the new one and the old one.
Brian, you can check on their status for it.
Yeah, we'll find that out. Or verify that they were 501c3.
Okay. Any other thoughts or concerns about that? If not, we'll go to St. Paul's Church Special Use Permit. This is the trailer that allowed it for how many years was this?
I think it was our zoning ordinance requires an annual renewal of the permit. In 2011, the council went ahead and extended the permit rather than having them come through for the next following years. They allowed it to renew automatically, but to terminate within the 3-year period, which is April of this year. They have currently started to move their campus to Pace West, and they expect to be out of the Fayette Street campus by 2017. So they've asked to, again, renew the permit and renew it through that time frame rather than have to come back on a yearly basis.
Can you repeat those dates? I'm sorry. They're starting to move to the former Pace West, and they expect that to be completed when?
By 2017.
It's going to take them 3 years to move a half a mile?
That's their explanation. And right now they've split the programs, and I guess they're trying to build capacity.
There was a lot of discussion on this back when it was originally approved in 2008, and when it was renewed in 2011.
I don't have
There's a reason it was a temporary use and a temporary allowance, and the whole idea is we don't even allow trailers to be parked on the streets in town, and this has become a permanent fixture.
I don't have a personal problem with, or a business problem with, giving them the SUP, but yearly, as our code states, not for a 3-year, automatically renew. Our code's very specific, and trailer usage is renewed annually.
Well, I don't understand if they're moving some of their occupancy to the new location, should that not free up occupancy inside the building so where they wouldn't need the trailer?
I would agree.
Or wouldn't they move the trailer people first?
Well, a couple of things have happened.
Didn't really mean it to sound like that, but
No, I understand what you're saying, and I guess what they're arguing in the materials is that they've kept the same amount of, they've not increased with the move, they've not added capacity, they've simply reduced the class sizes and the use of the facilities here and just split it between two. So they felt that their last phase is to move their MDO, they call it their Mother's Day Out program, which is pre-school. So you have your K through third grade, I believe, down at the Pace West campus, and all their preschool stuff is done here. And as they convert some of the other rooms that they're currently running to allow for these guys to move down, then the rest of them will move down.
I think there might be financial considerations too. I mean, you're having to pay rent over here. This you pretty much have paid probably for itself.
No, they're renting them from
pretty sure
the
they rent the
Episcopal
trailer.
Church.
Down here, they actually bought the trailers over here. Down at Pace West, what they've done is they're dividing each of the rooms.
Right.
And there's a cost involved with having to divide those old classrooms into 2 classrooms, and so it's for financial costs.
Now, St. Paul's Episcopal Church actually owns the property, and St. Paul's Anglican is leasing it from the Episcopal Church, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's the other nuance, is that the idea of the temporary trailers here would be an interim condition while they built a permanent school at the St. Paul's campus, with St. Paul's Anglican separating from St. Paul's Episcopal. Those plans were no longer pursued, and they've instead gone down to Pace West. So in addition to the annual trailer request, they also waived a bunch of site plan requirements and a bunch of other things we would normally require because it was meant to be a interim condition. I'm sorry, Mr. Schwab.
yeah, was the original church school that was granted the permit the Anglican church or the Episcopal church school?
It was teaching the basics. It was St. Paul's School teaching the basics that was given.
Well, I'm reading this, and it says St. Paul's Church School.
They were all one in the beginning.
Yes.
St. Paul's
They were one
Episcopal,
entity, and
and
now
then
it's
St.
split.
Paul's Anglican broke away from them.
Right.
Okay. I think it's time to get rid of the trailer. I'm sorry, but
Well, as I said, I don't have a problem with extending the use of the trailer during their transition. It's just, it needs to be renewed annually and not for a 3-year period of time. It's just, next year they may not need it.
Right, I would agree with that
So-
too, as opposed, because they are moving. So I think if we just do it on a yearly basis.
And I like trying to follow our code as best we can. So,
Could we get a better explanation or more detailed explanation from them by Monday of why it's needed till 2017 with the move and that? Just to give us a better feel and some confidence that the trend will eventually go away.
Sure. They
I
did
don't
provide
see
some
any-
cover letter. There's a lot of documentation in here.
Yeah.
and
There are
I,
some summary pages
can't
in the
foresee a
beginning, but
future
I'll have...
council denying it next year to when they come in to renew it. I mean, teaching the basics has been in the town in one form or another for quite some time.
No,
It's just our code, we renew an SUP for a trailer annually. So,
Two things. Sorry.
First, Martin.
Do we require a new public hearing every time that they come in for renewal?
We have in the past, yes, sir.
Okay, so this would be a public hearing for next Monday?
Next month.
Oh, next month, okay.
This is just bringing it to your attention. They've made the request. They need to. The current permit ends in April, so I suggested a joint hearing. I think two things. One, I need to disclose my youngest daughter attends the Fayette campus, just for disclosure purposes. Also, too, I think we have a plan in place, or we have a plan that's likely to come forward for the old Payne Lane property. Many of the parents and teachers park on the Payne Lane property across Payne Lane.
Payne Lane.
And so the parking issue is already a problem, and the traffic backup is a little bit of an issue right now. So I believe it's going to be more so should this property develop as it envisions within the next 12 to 18 months. So you're kind of setting yourself for a conflict. So it's probably a better idea to ask them to come back annually and update the council.
Or maybe somebody could attend the council meeting next Monday.
Yes,
that,
sir.
we could talk to about this, just to get it clear in our minds.
In the packet, you said to do a joint hearing with the planning commission on April 7th. Did you mean March?
I'm in April. So
Because their permit expires April 4th, the meeting would be April 7th?
I'm sorry, you are correct. It would have passed by then. So the joint hearing was simply to expedite the process to get them renewed, because there'll be a period of time that their permit is expired. So, thank
Just
you.
wanted to make sure that was...
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to let it expire and then discuss it?
I just came a little late to this. The only thing I think we just picked up on is we don't have property owners.
Well, I put in here that I would, if you're agreeing to go ahead and consider it, we're going to have them fill out a whole new application. I've spoken with the new pastor at St. Paul's Episcopal. They have signed a lease agreement with St. Paul's Anglican, but they do need to be a party to the application. Also, one of the other original conditions said if the church was to ever change ownership, that the permit was to be invalid. So that's another condition that we're dealing with. So I guess technically it is changed ownership. So we'll clean that issue up as part of the board or the council's new review. Supervisor. Councilman Aiken, I will have them here on Monday to answer your questions.
If they can make it.
I just think they expected to be a lot further than now had the church not separated.
Any thoughts on this one? Can I have like a little a thought bubble? Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's interesting that we have an annual and renewing special use permit at all, but it is for temporary use, so that makes sense. The idea that it would terminate on transfer of property, we make a big deal out of that. Generally speaking, special use permits run on demand, so I don't know why that condition was included in the first place.
We have generally for our special use permits for in-home businesses just allowed them to just,
Right.
but for a temporary trailer use, and we are specific in our code, you come in annually for, a trailer.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. It was just the being void on the transfer of the property, and I'm not sure if it is a transfer of the property because it's between related entities. It sounded like
Split up.
I'm sorry. I just brought that up as kind of some background on how this has evolved over time. There seems to be an interesting nexus on how this all came together.
Well, dealing with temporary uses is a pretty thorny issue. I know the county has a whole chapter, or a whole section of the chapter on zoning that deals with just some temporary uses.
Okay. Any other thoughts, concerns? Otherwise, Michelle, I guess you would reach out to see if anyone's available.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Our department reports. Renee, you're up first.
Okay. This month's treasurer's report, we cut it off a little early, but the revenues were under mostly because of the streetscape, and expenditures, even taking out the streetscape because we're we're behind on that, we're still under. And then I have a list of all of each individual line item that is over the budget to analyze. What I've been spending the past couple weeks, I've been looking at our obligation bonds. We have $1.5 million of principal outstanding, and it's due in about 10 years, March 2024. And I contacted VRA, Virginia Resources Authority, and what they do is they pull municipal bonds from Virginia, and evidently they get the best rate. And they do this quarterly. And then the municipalities also share the bond funding costs. So I think that's going to be our best rate. So they're going to, the next submission is end of April. So I'm hoping to get all this information and the council can give it to the council to approve next month. In the meantime, I'm also getting rates from the banks to see, if just something to compare it against, especially SunTrust. That's where we have it now. And they probably don't want to lose their business, so maybe they'll give us.
What is our current rate?
Well, most of them, it was taken out in 2004 and 2005. They're all at 4%, except for one bond was underwritten at 6%. But that's because this one was not tax exempt. So that was factored in the rate. So really all the rates are about the same. So even when we refinance, that will be more because it's not tax exempt.
What's the balance on that? It's like $200,000-300,000?
224.
And what is your estimate of what rate we might be able to get?
I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be rock bottom right now. It's really low. And I think this is the lowest time. And I know they're going to be going up. Rates are going to be going up for a long. So I think this is a really good time to lock into a low rate.
How do you think this might affect, like, our next fiscal operating budget? I mean, is there potential for savings that we're going to be able to?
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Well, these savings should put into principal and just pay it off quicker.
and $1,500,000 isn't a lot to other banks, but and that's another reason to pool it with Virginia. So that will also help us with the lowest rate. So
$1,500,000 or $1.5 million?
$1.5 million. I'm sorry. I had a long day.
I'm sorry.
And that's about it. So I will, next month, I'll have some figures for you.
Okay. But everything, we're underburning everything right now from what you're saying. So, okay, and no red flags.
No, and we're analyzing it now to try to determine exactly where we're going to come in the budget at the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Renee? Thank you very much. Engineers report, Holly.
Once again, progress on the enhancement project is slow due to the weather. Just to let you know what's happening, though, is right now what they're trying to do is do some temporary widening on the eastbound lanes, and then they want to do that so they can shift traffic over slightly, put up a concrete median barrier at the westbound lanes, and then work behind that barrier so they won't have to be closing traffic. So it's just that between the cold weather, so that when you can place the asphalt, the rainy weather, that affects when you can place the aggregate. So, but as soon as that happens and they're able to get that temporary pavement wedge installed, they'll be able to put up the temporary barrier, work behind that, and we won't have to be dealing with the temporary lane closures. Are there any other questions?
Will they do that on the other side then when they finish the one side and open that up, then they'll put the barrier on the other side?
And then they'll shift it over, exactly. So when
right.
they're moving the barrier around, they will have to once again, to close down traffic to move it. But that's what the goal is right now, is to get it so that we're not going through these lane closures, that we can get them working behind the barrier. And then they'll work on half the road, and then they'll shift the road to the half that's completed and work on the other half of the road.
So the barrier will be up for the entire length?
The barrier will be, the barrier that they're planning on putting up now will be along the entire length with gaps so that people can get into their properties or streets, but along the entire length of the westbound lane side.
And are they still confident they're going to meet their deadline?
Yes, they have submitted a new schedule showing how they, even with the weather delays, that they still are able to meet the deadline. Their intent all along was always have the main grading done by the beginning of like the summer break for schools. So that gave them room. That gives them the room to play.
Okay.
Steve just asked my
Oh, okay. All right. And you say complete, totally complete before they move the barrier? I mean,
No, what was that?
you said that it would be complete before they move the barrier to the other side. So
Well, no, what they're putting on now is just temporary asphalt.
Right.
It's actually temporary, so that then they can shift traffic over onto the existing road and then temporary. Then they're going to put up the barrier. Then they're going to be working on the one side of the road, the curb and the gutter. And I know that they're going to be set. Once you get the gutter is set. Now I have to see in terms of the asphalt when that phase is in. But the goal is to have it. The goal all along is to have Washington Street open as much as possible. It just happens now with having to do stuff at the right at the edges. They have to do the lane closures.
Right. So once the barriers go up, they're working on one side. At least I'm just wondering the pedestrian traffic, how that. Because it sounds like with the barrier up, they're actually working on that side, so it's not like the pedestrians can go on that side.
No, any of the pedestrian traffic will have to be going around on the back streets. I believe I even saw a sign that said that the sidewalk's closed.
Yeah.
There's a sign up there right now, so they're going to have to be walking along Washington Street until the project is finished. They're not going to be walking right on Washington Street. They're going to have to be using the back streets, and that is part of the pains of construction.
There's no back street.
What back streets? There is no back street between the bank and Green Hill Crossing.
Green Hill Crossing, that's in front of.
The pedestrian traffic will be different. Yeah, there's so much.
Donnie will love that.
I mean, that is part of the pains of having it. There's no place to put them.
Right.
That's part of the pains of what we're going through. To have what you eventually want with pedestrians being able to go on both sides of the road.
Right.
It's just the pains of what you have to go through.
Well, if we get 14 inches of snow anytime soon, we won't have to worry about pedestrian traffic.
We want to worry about construction, I don't.
Hey, they got a deadline of August, so weather, Mother Nature, they should have counted that in. The sidewalk, there was a bunch of problems with the sidewalk in front of Green Hill Crossing and the villages back when that was completed. And then the town spent a whole bunch of money to get a bunch of it redone and refinished and all that. What is our warranty on what Finley's doing?
You normally have about a 1-year warranty afterwards. Part of the problem of what happened at Green Hill Crossing in front of there, that was a developer. I'm not trying to say all developers are bad. I'm just saying.
Well, we know Peterson was, so that's
But they were trying. Developers have.
mostly Haymarket Station.
It's my understanding one of the biggest problems is that some of the sand bedding that underneath was uneven, and it was some places it was very deep, which caused a lot of settlement. Versus now we have, and that's one of the reasons we have these VDOT inspectors on board to make sure things are constructed according to spec. It's out here we don't have those same problems.
Right.
With these sidewalks out there, I attribute the problems with the sidewalk due to mainly was poor installation.
Okay.
And we have inspectors on board to make sure that does not happen again.
Okay. Versus the other was all done privately.
It's all done privately.
Are they replacing all that sidewalk?
They're not replacing the brick sidewalk that it goes from. That we just redid. That we just redid from Haymarket Station to St. Paul Drive. We are not replacing it. We're tying into the front of that.
Okay.
The intent when that was constructed way back when is that we had done coordination efforts at the time to make sure that we were tying into the front of that. It wasn't something that was going to be constructed and then we had to rip back out because it made no sense.
All right.
All right. Any other questions for Holly? All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Rashawn.
I think, Mr. Mayor, the historic overlay boundary line adjustment's been moved to April. We'll have it ready for final action in April. Chick-fil-A, we had returned their materials as being incomplete. We hope to hear back from them soon. I also received last week the sheets rebuild, and we'll begin processing that shortly. I also did speak briefly with the applicant for the Robinson's Paradise rezoning. This was wanting to go from R1 to R2. and they plan on resubmitting their application probably in the next month or two. That was increased by about 16 units, the number of lots up there. And then I also spoke today with the gentleman that wants to develop the old Payne Lane property. He also expects to be submitting something formal in the next few months, which will be a redevelopment of the entire block, save for the museum and the caboose. Had an initial conversation with the owner of the firehouse, actually his mother, who's taken over the project. So she has asked for some names of architects that have done work in the town. I have forwarded those names to her, and she hopes to meet with someone soon to start with a concept for the property. They still want to do the wine bar and bakery, but they wanted someone to come in and give them some ideas on how to redevelop the building. So moving slowly but surely.
One of the 1 mile developments on 55 across from the post office, I got a call about that.
Yes, I
meter homes or something, and
correct. There was a project called John Marshall Commons that I briefed you on probably about a year ago. It was a multi-family project and a townhome project on either side of the complex where Rainbow Station is. I had gotten a call a couple weeks ago, I think from Rebecca Councilwoman Bear, about a possible traffic circle across from the current post office. And I had not heard of that, but today I heard from, I guess, the gentleman that wants to develop John Marshall Commons. The county and VDOT has suggested that they do a traffic circle there to go from 4 lanes to 2. And that gentleman has asked for the town's input, I guess based on your suggestion, that we provide some input on the
Traffic
proposal.
circle on 55?
Correct. If you'd be traveling west on 55 from Gainesville, you would go from 4 lanes into a traffic circle, and it would be reduced to 2 lanes into town.
kind of like the
And are they planning on 4 lanes from that traffic circle to the new bridge?
New bridge where, sir?
Well, the bridge are going
Overpass.
that they're overpass, they're building over the railroad tracks.
Oh, sorry. This was if you were westbound on 55 coming from
Across from
Gainesville.
Greenville.
It would still be four lanes from the bridge,
Right outside of town.
the railroad bridge.
I mean, right now it's just 2 lanes, but
Yeah.
they're talking about going to 4 lanes all the way to the traffic circle.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Apparently.
That's the ultimate plan road width. As you get closer into town, it kind of widens up. The road widens a little bit. Ultimately, it's supposed to be 4 lanes.
And the thought with this roundabout thing is just to eliminate the traffic light, right, is the whole concept. Just kind of
Probably
slow it
there's
down.
just a need for a traffic light, and also, I think would be a good transition.
This is a VDOT approved roundabout going in there?
This is a VDOT recommended
Yeah.
roundabout, but the purpose of the call was to talk about it.
Yeah,
And I
VDOT
can get you more
recommended 2
information on
roundabouts here at
what's.
15 and 66. That was one of their proposed plans.
I mean, as a planner, it'd be an interesting gateway into the town. So, anyway,
That roundabout could be a nice
I'll try to have more information for you at next Monday's.
Not to the town because it's outside of the town jurisdiction.
Is the initial plan to have it in front of the post office, or where would the roundabout be? Or is that even been?
I want to say it's where you exit, where Rainbow Station is, right across from that, somewhere in that area. I think I'd have to look at their design plans, and they may be changing. This new development may have a separate entrance, either east or west of it, but I can get you more detail next week.
All right.
On the historic district overlay boundary adjustment, I'm pleased to say that I've gotten a circuit court order approving the boundary line adjustment last week, so that you could update that in the report here. It says that the ELA is expected to be approved in early March. We've actually got it now. So there's no hold up from that. So, we wanted to make sure that the ELA was approved by the court before we approved the boundary line of the historic district overlay map. Now we can move forward with that.
Well, Sean, we talked at the last meeting in regards to comments from some of the tenants down at Blueberry Way, specifically the cleaners, in regards to street signage on 15. I was asked about that again today. Did you have a chance to go down and talk to the folks at the cleaners since the last meeting?
Not of the cleaners. I put a call out to Mr. Lieber again. I've not heard back from him.
don't know if you use that cleaners or not, but if you had time in the next couple of weeks just to stop in and say hi, let him know that there are things in the works and just introduce yourself. I mean, he's a nice guy, but he's curious. He asked me about it again today, so.
My wife and him speak Korean a lot to each other, so I can use that as an interview.
There you go.
안녕하세요.
Yep. Okay. Anything else from Rashad? Otherwise, we're going to our police report. Anything Mr. Aiken?
No, I don't have anything to add, but you will see, I mean, hours worked are down, traffic summons down, a lot of things are tracked down because of the staffing.
I thought staffing was 24/7.
It is, but I mean, we used to have 2 people during the days on staff instead of just 1 now. So, I mean, there has been a reduction in hours worked because of that. We no longer have the luxury of having 2 people on duty during daylight hours.
Good. Museum report? Any other questions about that? We'll move on to our town manager's report.
I'll be short tonight. Just give you hit some of the highlights from my manager report for you all. I'm just about finished with the rough draft of the budget. However, I'm asking, I told you all I would bring the rough draft tonight. Actually, it's pretty much prepared, but I want to meet with our staff a few more times and also get with Vice Mayor Tobias as the finance chair or liaison for the town as well before we bring it in full to you all as a draft. I will get the draft to you once we've had that opportunity to meet, and I'm recommending that we have our first budget work session an hour prior to the work session in March, if that meets.
It's not going to be enough time. Budget work sessions take way more than an hour.
Okay.
We need to have it a totally separate night so people can be focused on it.
Okay. All right.
It is a mind-numbing process, and to try to squeeze it into an hour is not proper, and people need to focus on that and that alone that evening.
That's fine.
It is a mind-numbing process.
Would it be
I
possible?
think the shortest one I've ever known has been 2 hours.
Think of it this way. Does it have to be that way?
I mean,
I don't know, David. Depends on how many questions you have. But yes, it does have to be that way.
and it would benefit if you all want to set a separate meeting.
Our first meeting is March 3rd, then we have the PC on March 10th. Any objections to Wednesday, March 12th?
Hold on.
Go right ahead, I think I'm out of town.
March 19th?
No, I think we want to do it earlier in March than...
Yeah, March 12th or March 13th. Wednesday or Thursday at 7 o'clock?
6.
7 o'clock?
6.
6:30? 6:30?
During the week.
Some of us really want time to go to the gym and de-stress before we have to deal with your questions.
I can do 6:30.
All right, 6:30. On Wednesday the 12th?
Fine.
Wednesday the 12th at 6:30? Yes.
There we go.
You can make it anytime you want that week.
All right. 6:30, Wednesday the 12th.
It will make you want to leave town.
We're all planning vacay now.
I hope that I can hopefully take a little bit, alleviate some of that. And so we've been putting a lot of work in working with our departments. Well, the one department, and we'll continue to work with staff in between that time as well. Just also as a matter of note, I'm also working with the Planning Commission with regard to the capital improvements plan. For my recommendation, I would say we'd be vastly important that we tie both the capital improvements plan together and really look at the CIP from a 5-year standpoint. Now, that's typically what we've done, but I'm actually bringing a whole different concept that's going to look much more, unfortunately, like a budget, but it's going to break things out. That's a spreadsheet, but we also will have a narrative that will go with it as well.
I mean, that's what you're presenting to Planning Commission.
That's
See
what
if
I'm
that
planning.
runs PC wants to.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yes. So I'm just notifying you that I'm working with CIP. CIP always goes through the Planning Commission first. I'm also, I did hear back from VDOT, due to a lot of the weather and everything, they haven't had much success or time being able to commit to kind of getting all the data. They should have most everything done, and so they're planning on coming to the March work session to make a presentation about the Washington Street, Church Street intersection. I received a sign request from a tenant from Excellent Technology Solutions. He is interested in having the sign put up in our building. He did let me borrow because he already had the sign to be. This is the sign. Basically, we'd like to see if he can put the sign up on our building. Really, what we're looking for from the standpoint is if you're okay with it, then he would follow suit with making his application for us to try to get appropriate zoning permit.
By the
Where
door
does he
right
put
here?
it?
By the,
Is the name of the business on the signboard in the front yard?
it is on the signboard.
There you go.
So I told him I'd approach it.
Do we have a sign above the very thing or on the wall over by the door for the very thing?
There is a sign for the very.
Does this meet our guidelines?
Well, this would have we'd have to run that through.
No.
It does
I'd
not.
say right now it's way too big.
It does not meet the ARB guidelines.
Okay, based on what? Size-wise, it looks like it falls under our dimensions. So what on that wouldn't meet the ARB guidelines? No, we have similar signs of the colors. Is it just the white background? Is it not having...
Well, I mean, the ARB can handle all that, but I don't have a problem as long as it fits within our guidelines of advertising a company that we're renting property to.
Yeah, but you got to look at it from looking at the building. In my opinion, you have to look at it from looking at the building from the main street. The very thing has a sign on their entrance, which is on the opposite street from the front end of our building, or what is the front facade of the building when you come in off of Washington Street. I think that's going to just look tacky on hanging on the top left side above our staircase. Not only that, but there's other, well, there used to be. Are there still other tenants up there? They're the only ones up there now.
No, they're the only ones up there.
Right, but what happens if we rent space to someone else? And where are we going to put their sign? Next thing you know, we're going to look like a NASCAR bumper, and we're going to have stickers everywhere.
That's true.
Are you in negotiations?
We are working with them right now. They have a potential contractor interested in the space, running a whole entire space. Not to say that that's the reason.
No, I understand.
So they're not, right, so there's
But
still
they are.
space, right, but still, the whole point is you start doing,
One.
the very thing's kind of sign is not nearly as eye-catching as that. And I just think that from the front facade look, it's not going to look appropriate. And I would think that the ARB would probably concur.
What I would tend to say is, yes, this is the sign that he had made up. That does not necessarily mean that's the sign he has to put up.
The only sign that I think would be appropriate would be one that looks just like the one that says Haymarket Town Hall.
And
It says
that would be
technology.
something that the ARB, I think it's more of a conceptual, do you want to allow him to even pursue it? He can take this sign they had made up and keep it up in his office.
What does our sign ordinance say about signs on the building for subsequent?
No higher than 15 feet above existing grade or no higher than the second floor window sill.
How about size?
6 square feet.
Huh? Well, if they're possibly considering leasing all the space upstairs, could a compromise rather than putting that on our building, some type of logo on the door, the glass door that's going upstairs?
Is that their,
That would be much better.
is that their logo? Is that their colors on their logo?
I'm assuming that's
Somebody
it.
else's logo, they're just using it for their own name.
I mean, that might be a compromise to discuss with
Yeah,
them, that they could do something to the glass door that's going up there.
That would be preferable.
So,
I think.
Yeah, I just think the sign is going to look crappy on the side of the building with the facade that we already have.
Marshon, do we have a different standard for signage that we allow on doors and windows and things like that for, well, it's our building, we could always do a waiver in the form of a compromise to,
On the doors, the sign area shall not exceed 20% of the total door area. Or 6 square feet, whichever's less. I mean, they also have the opportunity, if you wanted to kind of spell it, seem like in a more linear fashion versus kind of your boxy thing there, and do something else too.
Well, I think if anything going on in the building that doesn't mimic what the town hall sign says as far as color and design motif, et cetera. I just think the facade will look weird if you have that bright, eye-catching sign on there.
What if we went back to them and had them work with the ARB to see if they could, that way you put it in their.
You don't have to work with ARB anyway, Brian.
Well, I know that, but what I'm trying to say is, like, what they're coming from you all is they are a tenant and they have to get permission to even go to the ARB. What I'm saying is they could go to the ARB, and if they can work out a reasonable compromise on what they want to do with signage, whether it be on the door or be on the facade of the building, then at that point, then they could get the permission.
Where the
from council.
ARB, though, comes in is by code, size, color, and is it allowed? Size and color is within our code. It's the allowed that we now have to get stuff like, no, I don't like the sign, but it doesn't mean it's not within our code.
I would suggest they try to come up with an idea to bring to us for a door sign. Stenciling the door, whatever they want to do. It doesn't sound like the majority of the people sitting here right now are in favor of hooking the sign to the building.
Yeah.
Especially that sign.
And while we're on the subject of signs, driving by the very thing for her, what is her sign doing on the side of our building? Big
sign that's on
sign, the side of the Hullfish House.
The sign on the Hullfish House?
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen it, but we'll find it.
Brian, I would suggest that you might want to put the excellent technology folks just in contact with the chair of the ARB and have them directly about a design structure for something stenciled on the door or etched in the glass or whatever they want to get.
Okay.
That way you just eliminate yourself as the middle person and let them come up with a minimal design to the ARB, and I think that a door sign, I think, would be approved.
That's perfect.
Just take out the middleman. You're too busy doing that.
Mr. Boschel. With regard to other tenants, one of the other things, I will get with Mr. Boschel about that. Excellent technologies. Also had, we've known for some time, we've been working with the very thing with regard to the issues of the ponding of the water. I wanted to just bring this up to you all. Doris, and part of her reason you all feels that one of the things that's been a detriment to the business with the large amount of standing water that ponds in the front door, just trying to look at some possibilities. We did work with Genesis to get some possible solutions. Everybody agrees that really ultimately the best solution is when you fix it when we do something with the master plan. But not having a direct timetable on that, we don't know when that's going to take place. As a temporary solution, Genesis recommended that and put together an estimate of installing like a graded asphalt parking lot repair that would pitch the water away from the entrance. I have had Holly take a look at it to see if this would solve the issue. Because there is a step up into it, it would solve the issue. However, it's one of those things. All it's going to do is it is going to push the problem to another area in the town, or another area on the town center property. It's not the best solution, but it is a temporary solution. So, basically.
Go ahead.
I was going to say.
I just want to be recognized first.
No problem. There's two things I basically want to talk about tonight that I'd like to get direction from the council on. The first is basically, do you all want to even explore that option? And that I'm basically just putting that to you. I'm indifferent. There are other options. One of the options would be to work with Doris. You could relocate her entrance to the front of the building that faces Washington Street. She does have two doors at the front. It might require us as landlords to maybe help her with that transition to a certain extent with regard to any of the interior changes. Basically create a window so she has connection with her customers that are coming in. That would be one option. The other option is we can hold off until we do something with the town center property, but we don't know when exactly that's going to be. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing, but if you want to, we can discuss that first, whichever you want. It had more to do with Genesis and working with Genesis.
Go ahead, Mr. Vice.
Well, Brian and I talked about this last week as far as Doris's little leak or what have you. I mean, it's been a problem since day one, and it's never gotten any better. It's not going to get any better until we dump $250,000 or whatever into this property and fix the parking lot, come up with a better parking arrangement, et cetera. I told Brian the other day, it doesn't make any sense for us to put any money into any kind of temporary solution that we're just going to tear right back up. When in fact, the front facade of this building and this entryway should be the entryway of that place from the get-go, which is what I've always tried to tell Doris, that she shouldn't have the side street entrance. And quite honestly, she's got 2 doors that can facilitate an entryway and not have a funneling problem. And as far as facilitating a window in the drywall or what have you, that would be a whole heck of a lot cheaper to cut a hole in the drywall so that someone can see someone coming in the front door or whatever you want to do, than facilitating any kind of concrete patch repair job that is probably just going to get torn up anyway with the plowers and all that. You can see the plow guys tore the heck out of our speed bumps, when they were plowing for the last storm. So anything you do over there that's not properly marked or properly delineated is just going to get torn up at the next snow anyway. And quite frankly, it's not that big of a problem. I mean, I've been over there when it's been puddled. Okay, there's still walk-arounds. There's still a way to get around it. And, it's been a problem for years, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying that this isn't the type of thing we should spend our money on to fix when there's a much cheaper alternative, which is put your front door where your front door should be in the first place. This is the front entranceway to the building. She's the only one that has a side entrance to the building, and she's got 2 front entryways that can be doors.
And with your comments about no timetable to the master plan, yeah, we had to leave our master plan off this year's budget because making sure we could fund streetscape 100%.
Oh,
so I hope you are adding in some type of
the plan
in the
is
budget
for it to
for
go
master plan work.
into this year's budget.
Okay.
That's for the engineering. And so what I'm saying is, like, even if we go through and do the engineering, there's still, you have another council by the time, so it depends of how fast we want to fast track the actual construction. The engineering is being planned for, but that's what you ran into.
What do you
That's
think?
what I was looking at.
What do you think the patch costs?
If I could, he did put on here how he wanted to get 2 more estimates, so I assume it's above our spending policy, so we may not want to throw that number out in a recorded meeting.
Ding, ding, ding.
If you could send us an email, what Genesis estimated costs were.
Yeah, well,
It's got to go to the lowest qualified bidder by government policy, but that's if we decide to even go that route.
I'm just curious as to what Genesis was, so I'd like to get that figure in an email if I could.
I guarantee you it's a lot more expensive than cutting a hole in the wall.
Yeah, probably.
and that's no problem.
With Doris in regards to the very thing for her, because I was just driving down, it was heading northbound on that side of the very thing for her. It was just like a banner sign like Washington Realty had. I don't know if it's screwed into that building or not. If it is, it never came through ARB, it never came through any,
Never came through council.
never came
I've
through
already
anything.
made that. We'll get to it. I've been pouring over budget, so I have not gotten a chance to get out as much as I wish. We will look into it. With regard to what Councilwoman Bear said, transition, the second thing is, one of the things that kind of has been brought up, and it was kind of a concern of Genesis, but it's also, I can understand kind of where they're coming from. And so we had Genesis go through a competitive bid with many other contractors to become the public works contractor. Now, these special projects aren't necessarily projects that you couldn't bid out on a separate basis. I'm basically actually requesting or recommending that you all consider allowing me to authorize Genesis, based on the fact that they did go through a competitive bid process, to move forward with special projects instead of under the $10,000 minimum. However, as opposed to requiring the 3 estimates. However, the big thing is this would still, any special project that would come up would still come to the council to get approved for moving forward. And so it's one of those things, just it's been brought up. If we want to keep them that way, that's fine. I think the biggest thing is what they've been doing to this day, though, is like projects like this, for example, even if we don't do it or we do go forward with it, they are speccing this out and they are taking time on this. And so what I'm saying is if we're going to have them spec it out, which would be a public works kind of thing, which would be perfectly legitimate, I just think we need to pay them for that time.
If they
we're
don't
going
want to bid
continue.
on one of our special projects, then they don't need to look at the job and put in a bid.
Okay.
Yeah, they bid on becoming
Very specific.
the Public Works Department for the projects that we delineated in the RFP back in the day. When other things come up, that was not part of the original RFP that they bid on in any way, shape, or form. So when you got a job that's over the spending policy limit, and over the limit that we've already authorized to use them for without any, competition, then we owe it to the town residents to be efficient with their money and get a bid process completed for certain expenses. If they want to spec things out at their cost and whatever, so be it. And if they want to bid on it, so be it. But that doesn't mean they're always going to win it, and that doesn't mean that we always have to give it to them. But we have a policy in place that has been adopted by the councils that delineates how things are spent, how purchases are made, and to try to go around that right now is not proper.
Well, I'm not trying to suggest that. I'm just making this up.
You were suggesting. You were asking if you wanted us to do it. Therefore, it was your suggestion that we do it. Rebecca and I are saying no.
All right. What's your concern about that? I don't feel like you got a fair shake in giving your answer.
Well, I think really what it comes down to is I understand. From their standpoint, I feel like, so Councilman Tobias brings up, they knew what they were bidding on. So if this is this, and that's fine. And I just think we need to make sure we give them a level playing field. That that's exactly what it was when they bid. I think it was their impression is that we're here to do work, basically for the town. So what we're saying is, no, we only want you to concentrate on these certain areas, which would include facilities maintenance in general, which would not include special projects. Now, we did clarify when they did sign the contract that if they were interested in the project, they could bid on that, on those projects. And that's fine. I think there was just a little bit of misunderstanding on their part, but I will handle that misunderstanding from the standpoint that when they're speccing out jobs, they're basically giving you the prices as they put together in their proposal. And that's what they're speccing the jobs on. If they're not going to be considered, they're of the mindset we can't keep one speccing out a job to give you an estimate on how much it's going to cost. Because a lot of times, like, for example, let's use this example down here with Dorses. We don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. We don't even know if we want to do it. We don't even know how much it's going to run, what it's going to cost asphalt. Is that the best solution? So we go and utilize someone who would know that, and so we've asked them to consult. What I'm basically saying is that's perfectly fine if that's how we want to go, but I think what we get into this mindset of doing is now we're going to just get 3 estimates on a job we don't know if we're going to do or not do. And I'm just saying I don't want to keep on using them to help us with their expertise.
Are they charging us for these
spec
out deals?
They are not.
Well, that's their own fault, because as you just said in your soliloquy there, when the contract was signed, it was specified that it was for general facility maintenance and general odd jobs, et cetera, but special projects, they would have the option of bidding on. You just said that. Therefore, that's a special project, they have the option of bidding on it. If they want to bid on it by giving you a spec out and an estimate of how much they think it might cost to fix it, well, if that's their bid, that's their bid. But if you're asking them to do work for us, which is i.e. provide an estimate, and they're not billing us for that estimate, and that's not part of the regular contract job, that's their own daggone fault for running the business the way they run the business. But you just said that things were made very clear when the contract was signed that special projects required a bid that they could compete on. Right. So to me, it sounds like they're confused, and it's their own fault. They're business owners, and they, if they want to give away their time and tell us how much it's going to cost to do something, I'm pretty sure our legal attorneys wouldn't do that. If we asked Martin and his law firm to give us an estimate on how much it's going to cost to defend ourselves for ABC and how much time, I'm pretty sure they're not going to, they're going to charge us for all their research when they put together a package. So should any contractor. It's not part of their scope of work. Just, it's not our job to be nice. It's our job to be appropriate with our townspeople's minds.
Mrs. Barron.
I believe we also put in the contract and made it clear that our spending policy applied to even scopes of work that they did cover. And at this point, they have to know what our spending policy is. They've been with us for as long as they have. So It's just mind-blowing to me right now to pay them for an estimate.
Well, we're not paying. We
Well, I
haven't
know
paid them
that,
anything.
I know, but your first
I'll get you.
comment about, them giving us their expertise and not being charged for it. Well, of course not. They knew before they even went to look at that job, it was going to be above what our spending policy is. And at this point in time, they have to know what it is. So for me, I'm just kind of blown away that we'd even have the conversation of paying someone for an estimate on a job. So.
All right, Mr. Aiken.
I think the solution to this, to be fair to them, and that is that anything that appears to be above the spending policy, we ask for a bid from 3 people. If they want to be one of the 3, that's fine. But I think the problem here that I'm hearing is that we go to them and ask for bids on things and then determine whether or not we might want to do it or not, and we're sort of using them as a sounding board and using their time in that, whereas we should have clear delineation that, okay, this appears to be fixing a wall outlet, that's within the scope, and you're going to get the job anyway, give us a bid on it, or this is bigger, and we need to go to 3 people, get the bids, and if you want to choose to bid on it, that's fine, and not use them as a sounding board on the bigger projects, because that seems to be the sticking point.
Where has this been an issue?
It just came up through this when they gave the and part of it was even my own fault. I'll admit it. So I was going through and working with them. The estimate came back more than I thought it was because I wasn't thinking about it being as big of an asphalt job as it actually was. And so I thought we were going to be around that amount, in which case I was going to bring it to I would bring it to you all anyway to let you know. When it came in higher, then I was like, well, now I need to go in front of council. I wasn't thinking about the terms of the 3 estimates. So then I replied back to them, and I have no problems with saying this. So I replied back to them and just said, hey, just want to let you know I'm going to have to get 2 other estimates on this and everything. And that's just where this came
Okay,
out.
so this hasn't been an issue that's come up to where we've gotten a bid from them,
No.
and, they've just been underbid, so this is just only on this.
Yeah, it's just on this thing, and basically what it comes down to is essentially they have the business mantra, and they really want to kind of be the business partner to the town. That's saying they have no qualms of doing this kind of work. Not to say that we have to get it. They understand that we're a local government. They've worked with local governments before. They understand that we have to have certain areas where the project's too big. We have to bid on it. It has to go through a bidding process. Or if it was coming through grant funds, that's why we're being able to do the project in the first place. That has to be bid out. They understand all that. They're not disagreeing or refuting that. What it came down to is just probably more of the purchasing policy and everything. And so, with that being said, this is fine. And so I will work with them and we'll get it hammered out. I wanted to bring it to you all and as a suggestion.
Okay, all right.
Other than that, in my report, Joe Barbeau has started with SEC and will be handling all the new inspections for the town. I've had an opportunity to both meet with him and Doug and feel confident about his abilities. We are wrapping up some inspections with our current inspector that he was already on, but Joe's ready to go, and I think it's going to work out great. The only other thing I need to come to you all about is one of the things I'd like to do for the incoming elected officials. Obviously, we have an election in May. In May or early June, I'd like to schedule an orientation for elected officials from this May election. The orientation will include a facilitator and the staff. And the funding for the orientation, we do have enough in the education and training budget from this year's council budget. But I wanted to bring it to you all mainly from the standpoint of it is in this year's fiscal budget.
Okay.
Here's my problem with that.
Mr. Tobias.
If the people who are on the ballot to run for election, no matter who they are or what they are, they should be getting involved. And they should be coming to work sessions. They should be coming to council meetings. They should be taking the initiative on their own. I, for one, am not going to want to welcome in anybody brand new and expend the town's money to educate them on something they should be educated on by the virtue of, as a qualification, to run for the office. If they want to run for the office and get elected to the office, they need to educate themselves and qualify themselves accordingly. I can tell you in the past, there's been many people who ran for office who spent hours in Jennifer's office or emailing Jennifer, talking to her, or talking to the previous mayor, talking to the previous council. For us to facilitate something for them, that's, to me, is silly if it's going to cost us any kind of money out of any kind of budget category. Because they should be educating themselves and they should be taking the initiative on themselves. It shouldn't be something we do. Last I checked, the White House didn't hold an orientation for the incoming president. That's just ridiculous.
I could see.
Actually, they do.
I
They don't
could
have
see.
a formal orientation. They might have a luncheon where the guy comes in, but they don't have a formal orientation.
Yeah, I could see doing something a little more lower key and maybe, with staff and the incoming and set up a small little lunch or something. But to this extent, I
If they want to learn what the hell they're supposed to be doing, they need to get their butts in here and learn. There's not that many things going on. They can come sit at a meeting, they can watch a video, they can talk to you, they can talk to Jen, they can talk to Sherry, they can talk to the chief of police, they can talk to anybody they want to talk to.
I think
It's their job to get themselves educated for the world.
Okay, thank you for your comment there. Brian, I think what you're probably trying to say is that you found that this being very beneficial by having like these retreats where you have all the new elected in there to go over what's the goals for our term.
Well, honestly,
That didn't sound like anything of what he tried to say.
No, there's actually two different facets to this. And so really, I would recommend, I understand what you're saying, Councilman Tobias, and I respect it, but on the flip side, I don't think every elected official who comes in knows exactly what they should do. They do need to be taken.
And they probably shouldn't run for the office, Brian.
But why they run for the office is not a lot of times, 9 out of 10 times is because they have a distinct interest in the community, and that does not educate them at the same time what it means to be a council member and how does all this stuff go about.
Well, that's
A
why
lot
the
of times
VML and they hold that newly elected officials conference that we do pay for in the training budget.
Correct.
That's why that's held.
But that's only a 2-hour session.
So what are you going to hold, 8 hours?
Mine was ours was 2 days.
Theirs was a 2-day conference.
But it was 2 months after we got elected.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
This
well,
is,
Well, that's where I think
that's not necessarily a
it's
more.
not our job. If we're such a small town that if people want to get involved, and God bless them, if they want to get involved, they want to get elected, they want to run for office, we've got an open door.
Okay.
We've got 40 seats that only one of them is occupied right now. And unless they're all listening on the telecom right now, which hello and thank you, they need to take the initiative themselves. I spoke to one of the people who was supposedly running for council this past weekend, and I said, well, why aren't you at our meetings? If you want to run for council, shouldn't you know what's going on? You got 3 months till you take over the office. Shouldn't you know what we're doing? Shouldn't you maybe come to the budget work? We have always invited candidates in the past and elected, newly elected and, incoming officers to our budget work sessions where they're not only are they more than willing to sit down and participate, they're given a chair at the round table. They're given a chance to offer their insight. They're given a chance to offer their suggestions and to get educated. There is plenty of opportunity after the election on May, whatever it is, 4th, 6th, whatever, for them to learn in that 45 or 50-day window what it really means to be a council member. Quite frankly, the names that I've seen on the ballot, I'm sure Dave has already told them what it means to be a council member. So I just think it's ludicrous.
Mary Lou, do you kind of like my idea of maybe something a little lower key than a formal orientation, like a lunch and staff
I
can...
think that would be fine.
Kat, what do you
Yes.
think? I think that's a good idea. Steve, what do you think?
I think something should be done.
There you go.
Just to welcome them and make them feel welcome, for one
They
thing.
get sworn in June. That's a welcoming, isn't it?
Just something a little more lower key, less formal. How's that sound, Brian?
Not quite where I think we need to be, but that's fine.
Well, no, I mean instructional, but, let's lose words like facilitator. And, just staff, carry on a conversation and, give everyone a copy of the employee handbook and, our policies and procedures.
Jennifer does that. Every election, she emails all the newly elected people, all that stuff.
But we're a small town, a little get-together. I agree.
Yeah.
There we go.
You guys are crazy.
All right. Well, thank you for your effort there, Mr. Mitchell.
Not debating that with you?
Not a chance.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right. We will have one closed session item.
Just one?
Two.
Actually, can we go back to Brian, because I don't think that's really it.
Oh,
You spoke earlier today in regards to the building inspectors versus the building official.
oh, yes.
That's not part of your topic tonight?
No, because
I'm
I wanted
assuming
to
we
find
need to find that
out
out.
more information with Mr. Krim before I bring anything. That's typically how I like to try to do things. It's like I'd like to find more information so I can drive out and find more information. We're trying to learn, there basically is a distinction between building inspectors and certified building officials. In previous history, we've had a certified building official here in the town. That's the reason why it's never been an issue. He can do both building inspections and be in everything that an official was required to be. At this time, though, SCE, when they actually took over, they were basically asked to be in that situation, but they didn't have the credentials to be such. And stuff. We've worked through those issues, but really what we have to do is we are trying to discern if we absolutely have to have a building official. And then if there's ways that we can go about that. Your charter basically kind of covers you because prior to having inspectors and all this kind of stuff, the charter basically said it could be someone to do the inspections with the building. So we're kind of covered under our charter, but we kind of need to make that next step.
We need the legal definition, differences between official and inspector.
There is a possibility that there's different ways to go there. You can basically send someone, that could be anyone here on the administrative staff, to possibly get a certificate program, to be the certified building official, kind of like an administrative position as opposed to being an actual inspector, so to speak. We are working closely with SCE. So that's the reason why I hadn't brought it up, because I really want to find out more information.
Right.
So.
Okay. So the closed session, the item that me and Jen spoke about earlier, and you mentioned there's another one?
What is the item that you and Jen spoke about?
It's, I don't know how you want to phrase it.
Personnel matter.
Personnel matter.
Pertaining to the police department.
Yeah. Okay.
And then our little white package, don't we
Right.
want to discuss this? So
True. All right. Any other things for our meeting? All right. Thank you all for your time.
Jen, can I have these back to the cook with my packet so I don't leave